Sports.com. Sam Amick was on the show, the morning show with Carmichael Dave and Jason Ross, and dropped a lot of good tidbits. And one of the tidbits that he dropped was about Pascal Siakam and what exactly went wrong there. This is what he had to say.
It's literally, you could argue it's petty, and I don't know. I'm not trying to take sides here, so it could be, off. But
that's fine. We'll take
for better or worse, on the Siakam side, there was an inference from his camp that over the years, and I don't know what form this took, but that there were like behind the scenes, somewhat disparaging remarks made that came from the Kings about his game, and the way it was framed to me was that in an attempt to drive down what it would take to get him, that like some gossipy type feedback on his game had gotten back to him. So it's literally like if you're on the, if you're in school and you just hear that somebody's talking a little bit about you and you don't forget, that is the way it was put to me from his side.
That's not good.
What? That's crazy.
That is not good.
I don't think I've ever heard that before.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to even piece together like the what happened. Like, I mean, it sounds to me like Sam is saying that, potentially in negotiations that Monty or Wes Wilcox had said something to the effect of, hey, we're not willing to give that up because Siakam isn't that level of player, or maybe said something
maybe
specific about his game. Yeah, maybe. I don't know what, but it sounds like there was something that was said in negotiations that, and it makes sense that negotiations should be something there should be some sort of gentleman's agreement of like, hey, what gets said in the negotiation room does not get out, because you're naturally going to downplay a player that you're potentially going to bring in. And, if in negotiations with Domantas Sabonis, what if Monty McNair said, look, I know you probably want a first round pick, but we're talking about Domantas Sabonis here. We're not talking about Joel Embiid or Nikola Jokic. Like, that can't get back to Sabonis, because he could hear that and think exactly what Sam just laid out in the Siakam piece. So it just isn't something that I think happens often, if ever. And if it does happen, I don't remember ever hearing about it. And if anything, it is a very Kings thing. Like, only the Sacramento Kings could somehow, and I'm not saying this in a LOL Kings thing, but like only the Kings could ruin a trade before it even happens.
Right.
And or ruin somebody's feelings about Sacramento before they even get here. It's just so strange to me. I almost wonder if Siakam just didn't want to be on the Kings for whatever reason. I don't know what the specific reason is, and he's just looking for reasons to justify why I don't want to go over there. Why he would want to go to Indiana more than Sacramento, I can't answer. But to me, like, I'm not, and I'm definitely not saying what Sam's saying is wrong or untrue. It is just a very, very strange story that I don't think I've ever heard before. And, it's really, obviously, I mean, and then there's the basketball side of it, that's incredibly disappointing if the Kings missed out on a dude who, whatever, we'll do the specifics later, but was part of the reason why his team went to the conference finals, and the Kings couldn't get in on that simply because something in negotiations got leaked and hurt Siakam's feelings.
Yeah, and this is on the heels of Woj yesterday announcing that sources are telling him Pascal Siakam intends to sign a 4-year, $189.5 million max contract to return to the Pacers, and that's going to come out to $47.3 million a year, which you can bounce it back and forth on whether that's too much or not enough. I don't necessarily think that's an overpay, especially in this market with what's going on. But yeah, I'm not really sure what to do with that information. As far as why it would get back to Pascal, I don't know if maybe the Raptors side of things thought that they could get a better package back from a different team other than the Kings, so maybe that was part of it too. Hey, this is what came out from the Kings side, and maybe it didn't come out what the Pacers side said or what any other team said, because the Raptors were trying to maybe finesse where Pascal would go. So who knows? But it's definitely an unfortunate situation if that did hinder the idea of this trade happening or affected how Pascal feels about the Kings. I mean, I think just from a basketball standpoint, I'm okay with believing that it was mostly that, because with Sabonis and how much he has the ball, and De'Aaron Fox, and both Sabonis and they're not the same player at all, Sabonis and Pascal, but neither of them really stretch the floor. Pascal will take threes every once in a while, so I'd like to stay in that side of things. But obviously, when something like this comes out, we have to discuss it. I mean, Chris, this takes you down the path of, okay, we already know what happened with Mike Brown and that whole situation, where it's not completely random to hear about negotiations. I know we talked about, hey, Ty Lue, his negotiation situation, that came out. So it's not just a Kings thing, but you don't hear about it often. So for that to come out this past summer or during this offseason for the Kings, then the Sasha Vezenkov thing, it's a report, and then the report got taken back, and everything is good, but it's not really good, and who started that? And now this coming out, it just feels like other teams are more of a locked vault than the Kings. Some things have been leaking out from the Kings side of things, and I don't really know why that is.
Yeah, I don't know if I would put this in that category. Like Dave kind of asked Sam directly, like, why didn't we, whatever happened with that? And then Sam, even then he was like, I don't want to divulge everything. And I think the difference between this and those is that those were handed to media members, and this is Sam being asked a question about something that happened a long time ago. So I don't want to put these in necessarily the same conversation, but no, it is still a sign that, things are just not easy here in Sacramento for whatever reason. There is always drama, and it does feel like, drama does find its way to this organization for whatever reason. And like you said, though, we didn't hear anything from the Indiana side of these negotiations for whatever reason.
Right.
Only the Kings side of the negotiation ended up getting back to Pascal, because I'm pretty sure Indiana wasn't all, sunshine and roses in their Siakam negotiations, or else they would have had to give up Tyrese Halliburton or something like actually substantial. There was definitely a point to which Indiana probably said, we like Siakam, but we don't like him that much.
Yeah.
Why wasn't that ever divulged to Siakam? So it is strange. It's a really, really strange story. Again, I would have no idea why this would specifically get back to Siakam, why they would want the Kings to not be the front runners in this negotiation. I do wonder if, I wouldn't say it's peeling back the curtain, but I wonder from a GM to GM side of this, like, if I'm Monty, if I'm Wes, or whoever, if I'm the Kings front office, guess who I'm not dealing with ever again?
Yeah.
That's the Toronto Raptors, because there's no way, like, again, these conversations are very private. There's only 4 to 6 people who maybe are in on these conversations.
Yeah.
That's not a very long list to try and figure out who told Pascal what we were saying. And even if it's true or if it's not true in terms of what they actually told Pascal, one of those people had to have told him something. And so, if I'm the Kings, I'm definitely washing my hands of anything that comes Toronto Raptors. I guess these days, they already shipped off OG and Pascal, so they don't have a ton of people that they're trying to get. But, I would cut ties with Masai Ujiri. And funny enough, I mean, I don't think that this is the first time that that GMs have said, dealing with Masai is kind of a headache. He's a bit of the Danny Ainge school of thought, to where he's never going to lose a trade. And that's why he held on to Pascal and OG for so long. But if I'm Toronto, I'm like, I kind of don't know if this is a good look for us either, because people talk. Monty is good friends with Daryl Morey, and I know Wes came from Atlanta. I'm sure he's got a lot of connections outside of that as well. Word gets around, and if you possibly prevent a franchise from getting a player the caliber of Pascal Siakam, they're not going to be happy about it, and they're not just going to be tight-lipped about it. So, you could argue that this leads to, and maybe we never see it materialize, but it does behind closed doors, some version of an eye for an eye. It's like, this isn't just going to go by the wayside. Like there has to be some form of repercussion, even if it is just, we're not dealing with those guys ever again.
Well, it's just unnecessary. I mean, some things just need to be unspoken, and
100%.
Everybody understands that they're not perfect players. The
Unless
question
it was
becomes
something crazy.
And I'm sure some crazy things get said
Yes,
in these meetings,
right.
but it's, hey, we all like our jobs and we all don't want to screw each other over.
Right.
So let's make sure that we don't screw each other over.
Yeah.
And it seems like a little bit of on the Raptor side of things, that's what they did for the Kings. Whether the deal would have went through either way, doesn't really matter, because now that you're dealing with a team who, hey, you're not allowing, if you know that this deal is really based upon whether or not he will resign, and you say those things to him, and now it comes out that Pascal doesn't want to go to Sacramento, and we never hear from Pascal as to why. We just have to assume. And I think in the report about, it might be a little bit redundant, sure, but we never heard from the horse's mouth. This is all because now that something like this comes out, hey, this is because of you, right? Everything that I'm hearing is telling me that in part, whatever it is, Pascal had some issues with how we evaluated him, and there's no reason that he should even know that. I mean, if your boss and your boss's boss are talking about, actually, Chris, I had this happen to me at my old job. Not here, at my old job. So, a lot of people are using Slack these days, right? So my boss's boss got told something about our team, right? That boss slacked me what he was supposed to slack to my boss. And I was really, really confused, but I looked at him completely differently, because that's not how you go about things. If you have something to say, just say it to either say it to my face, or you go through the correct channels, make sure you don't slack the wrong person so that something like that doesn't happen. Now, that wasn't on purpose, and it seems like the Raptors and what they did was on purpose. So you got to side eye them if you're the Kings moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, again, I the only thing that I'm willing to maybe reserve my judgment for is, and we'll never hear it, so it doesn't really matter, but what did the Kings say? Like, again, if it was like kind of an out-of-pocket thing, which I just can't imagine it was, but because, again, I think
he can't shoot threes.
I mean, more so about like his person. Like if it's like, oh, I hear, and this, I don't know if Pascal Siakam has children or anything like that. I'm just making this up. He's a deadbeat dad or something. Like that's, I mean, but seriously, like that's the only justifiable reason for breaking that code, is if it's like, hey, dude, we want to send you here, but they kind of said something pretty crazy about you in negotiation. If it is just, we don't think his three-point shot is going to develop, of course, that is not something that should be divulged.
But if it was something that crazy, I think it would have come out.
Probably.
What if they just said his jumper's broke? Is it how you say it?
Right.
Monty said, "Look, man, I'm not giving you 2 first rounders.
No bag.
That jumper is
bag.
He got no bag, and that jumper is broke. No JanSport."
That's my analysis.
Coming up next, Monty Williams might have the best job ever, and that's not a job at all. Stiles and Watkins, Sactown Sports.
You never know